All right, we're like nearly an hour late, but I don't know. I was tired and I was doing a lot of work around the house, and we may have lost some of the regular crew. But the long awaited return of Pete is
Yeah.
here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yay! Yay! So Pete was just telling me he's buying a PC or searching for a new PC. What's up? Why do you need a new PC?
Well, my old computer, not the computer I'm using now, my work laptop is new, but my desktop computer is about 6 years old. And even though I've sunk several $100s into upgrades and stuff, I'm realizing the limitations of the main pieces like the motherboard that I can only upgrade so far before I'm unable to really push it any further. So I'm starting to get an idea as my birthday's in April, and my wife's like, well, if you want to get a new computer, I can give you part of it as your birthday present. So I'm starting to do a little shopping now and try to find something that's reasonable enough, but it'll at least give me the bare bones that I can upgrade further in the future. So
No, no, I get that. The PC I am using right now. Part of the reason why, I mean, like, I was like, all right, I'm ready to go at like 9:30, but I had to restart the PC because it just needed to be restarted, and so then it literally takes about 20 minutes to shut down, then come back up to work. And once it's rolling, it's great, and I don't use it for anything really other than this. I mean, this. But I mean, it's starting to make that weird like fan noise where it's like tick 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 tick. Where like I mean, I know that. I mean, and this is about 6 years old, like I think I said already. So I don't know. It's one of those things where it served me well, for a long, long time. I mean, but at this point, I don't really use it. I don't even think there's anything really on it anymore. I mean, I used to have like a bunch of old pictures and stuff, but I've since transferred those to, like just a portable drive, like an archive drive, and
yeah, I've got one of those too. Like a 2 terabyte external hard drive that you just plug in RAM.
You just plug it in and you just go, and it's like, I think I picked one up on, like, I picked one on the Amazon Lightning deal, a terabyte or 2 terabyte one for like next to nothing.
Yeah, I got mine for like $45 at like a Black Friday a couple of years ago. Love it. But yeah, I mean, mine's the same situation. I mean, my computer works fine. Once it's up and running, it's solid. It's a great net computer. It's good for when I'm working on prototypes and stuff. I can get in Word, I can get in Excel, I can do some light graphic work with it. It's just that one of my hobbies and pastimes is PC gaming, and I'm into a lot of the new VR stuff right now. And it runs my Oculus Rift, but it barely runs it. I get all kinds of power issues. Sometimes my USBs will power out because it just doesn't have the motherboards just doesn't have enough juice to the USB ports to keep the Oculus running. So I'm more kind of being greedy. Like my PC probably would run another 3 years if I really wanted it to, because it's a solid machine. I built it myself, but it just doesn't have the motherboard to allow me to upgrade any further. And I really want to get into some of this new VR gaming, and I want to be able to play some PC games like completely turned up all the way, and it's not quite able to do that. So
I played we had Paul Churchill on one night like a while back, and he has a VR. I mean, I was like, people were like, "Oh, have you ever done anything with VR?" And I was like, "Nah." And I was just like, "How cool could it be?" And he actually has, like, I mean, he's a guy in his early 50s who's I think he's worked hard and earned well, and so but he's still very much a child like all of us, and
sounds very familiar.
He's got the money to spend on those things, and so he put the thing on, and I went to his house and I put the little goggles on, and I mean, first of all, I think the whole thing about the VR for me is like you have to get over, like it's that weird thing of like like, okay, I'm going to look like an idiot wearing this, but then you have to realize that, okay, well, I can't see the people looking at me, because you're but you look like an idiot,
right.
But you just can't think about what other people are thinking about while they're watching you do this. And so, yeah, I mean, and I got the thing on, and I forget what his was. It was like one of the bigger ones or better.
Oculus Rift or HTC Vive?
I think it was the Vive. I'm not sure.
Did it have like straight controllers or rounded little hand controllers?
I don't know. I had two things in my gloves or whatever, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't remember it honestly, but I remember like I got into it and like he ran his right off of Steam, like all of like the
Yep.
Steam VR
Yep. I
stuff.
do too. Mhm.
And man, oh man, I mean, like there was this one game that was like, well, there was one game that was like this, like basically like a Mike Tyson's Punch Out game where you're like sitting there. I mean, and I was like sweating, after doing that.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
VR boxing league.
I was playing there was another one was like a tower defense thing where like you actually like had to put your hand back behind you and pull it forward to pull out the arrow, and then you'd actually go and you'd shoot the arrow.
Deadly Monster Hunter. That's a good one too. There's a
I
lot
don't
of
know what
really
it
good.
was. I don't know what it was called, And
Yeah, there's
but the one that I actually liked the most was like this one where you had a shield and a gun, and like you were shooting these like basically like kind of Space Invaders type thing as these
yep.
people were coming in.
That one is called Blasters of the Universe. I think I literally have like 50 VR games now. They're on Steam. When they had their winter sale, I bought a ton of games for like $5-6 each. So I spent like $100 on Steam, bought like 25 games. But yeah, they're real cheap. Like even the most expensive Steam VR games are like $39, which is nothing compared to like a $60 regular video game. What really got me was I got my Oculus Rift for Christmas, and I started dabbling around. And I got like Star Trek Bridge Commander, which was cool. Played with a few friends and did that. That was all awesome. And some really cool like martial arts and sword fighting games like Super Hot, and there was a couple others. And then they got some really cool IP games too, like Rick and Morty and stuff that I've been enjoying. But there's this game called VR Diner Duo, and it sounds stupid, but you basically have one person in the headset and they're behind a chef's little kitchen, and they're like making hamburgers and making hot dogs and cutting up fish sandwiches, and there's a cupcake version, and then the other person sits at the computer behind the keyboard and runs this little robot waiter and goes and takes orders and then goes and yells them to the person in the headset, who then has to make the order. And then my daughter loves this game. Like, she loves it. She gets in the little headset and she's just making food and she's calling out orders and she's ringing the little bell, and she has such a great time with it. And I've got her to do some of the art games that are on there, like Quill, where you basically have a palette in the VR box basically, and you're just standing there and you can hit a button and your finger turns into a pen or a crayon or a marker, and you just draw in 3D, and you can like walk through your drawings and make little tunnels, and they have like a foam gun so you can like make igloos and crawl inside them. My daughter loves it, so I'm really excited for her to play with me. So that's why I really want to get my computer up to snuff so I can be able to run this stuff better. And she loves it. So anything I can do to get her to be interactive with me is always a plus.
No, man, that sounds really cool. I mean,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that was I mean, I don't know if it's the future of gaming, honestly, but I do think that it was, I mean, it's pretty cool, right? I mean,
it's still early. It
yeah.
may not be. It may be the future, but it is definitely in its infancy.
Yeah. No. So, other than that, I don't know. I mean, it's just like, what do people even use their I mean, PC gaming is. I mean, at what point do you think consoles will catch up, right?
Well, PlayStation already has virtual reality. They got a PSVR additional bundle you can buy. I mean, it's almost as expensive as the PS4, but they have their own VR system. And I guess Microsoft has been talking about partnering up either with the HTC Vive or with the Oculus Rift to have the next iteration of Xbox VR, which I'm assuming will be announced sometime this year and probably come out next year. So, I think it's catching on. It's just going slowly. PlayStation jumped right into it, but I think Microsoft's going a little bit more slow and steady to see what the market shapes up to be. But I mean, there's dozens of mixed reality headsets out there now, and even Oculus and HTC Vive are coming out with multiple versions of headsets for the economy version, the elite, hardcore gamer. So it's starting to catch on. It's still like, again, it's kind of like board gaming, how it's still a niche compared to the mainstream video game market. but it's gaining traction and it's growing at a pretty steady pace. So I imagine this time 3 or 4 years from now, it'll be much more common than it is now.
Yeah, I mean, it'll I don't know. It's definitely like I mean, I didn't think I'd like it as much as I did. I mean, it was one of those things where I thought I was like, whoa, this is super cool, and then I was just like, I gotta like maybe I'll possibly like get this myself. And then I was like one of those things where I thought about it for a while, and then I was like, I don't think I'd use it enough. You know,
well, it's getting cheaper now. Like yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like if the prices were still $600, $700, $800 for the bundle to get involved, I never would have gotten it. You know, my wife let me get one at Christmas time for the family, but Oculus was on sale for $360, which was a much more affordable entry level. I bought a couple extra sensors to get room scale, which was like another $110. So for under $500, I got the complete setup. I got everything I need. And then, you know, another $100 on Steam to get a bunch of games, and I'm good to go now. Now, other than like upgrading my computer to get maximum effectiveness from it, I mean, technically, I can run everything now. It's getting cheaper, and I think it's going to get even cheaper as the newer versions of headsets come out. The older ones will get in the 200s and low 300s, like some of the mixed reality headsets that are out now. So I think that the price point is getting much more mainstream, and probably will by this Christmas. You'll be able to jump in for $250, $300.
Yeah, and maybe it won't be a like a novelty. It'll actually like somehow eventually become like something that's pretty cool. So
yeah. And the advancements in games, like I don't know how recently you played, but the games from when I first got into it in Christmas and even up till now, I'm seeing, you know, leaps and bounds from the games. Like if you buy games that are like a year or two old versus the games that just released in the last 6 months, I mean, they're pushing the technology boundaries. And the main reason I wanted Oculus is because at Comic-Con last year, I saw a demo for a new game called Marvel Powers United, which is like a Marvel superhero game where you jump into the persona of one of your favorite heroes and go around and fight each other. And I played that little demo at Comic-Con last year, and it blew me away. And that game's coming out in like a couple months, and I cannot wait for that. Like you get to be the Hulk, and you see your big Hulk fists, and you are punching through rocks, and you're throwing people across the screen, and it's just amazing.
Yeah. You know, one day maybe, I don't know. Like, it's just, you know, I've tended to like lately, you know, I recognize that when I see something like that, I'm like, oh, this is something I gotta get this, and like I realize, well, you know what? Wait a month and see if I still feel like, I gotta get this, and like, cause usually after a month, I'm like, you know, something else interests me at that point, right?
Yeah, and this is definitely something that, you know, even if you're pretty sure, it's definitely the price points aren't low enough where I just impulse jump in. Like I spent most of last year kind of researching VR, and it was really Comic-Con that in July that really kicked the, oh my God, I definitely want this after playing that demo. But then I spent like the entire rest of the year up till Christmas time researching and waiting for a good sale to really justify the purchase, because I can often impulse buy and then it sits in the corner collecting dust. And when I got it at the right price, when it was right around the holidays, and I'm like, hey, sweetheart, you know, it's on sale for under $400, you know, and she's like, all right, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. You can do that for your Christmas. And I was like, perfect. And it was a good price, and I've definitely gotten a ton of use out of it. And my daughter now plays it. Even my wife, like there's a Google Earth app where you can spin the globe around, and then you can like get down to street level and walk around cities in Paris and stuff. And she's not a big video gamer because she gets motion sickness real easy, but like the Google Earth app, she loved like walking around her old house back in Massachusetts. She was walking through her old neighborhood and stuff. It was stuff like that was really cool for her. So, you know, the family will get some use out of it, and then I'll get my gaming use out of it. So I feel like it's not a wasted purchase, but definitely wait till you're ready, because it's even at $350, that's not a small entry point.
Well, yeah, and there's just I don't know. For me, it's like there's other things I could spend the money on. You know, I don't know.
Sure, that's a lot of video games. Hey, that's the Batman. That's a base pledge for Batman.
I've not to segue here, but I mean, I've thought about that. I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to get it. It's like I don't know when I'm going to play it. Honestly, I just
I felt the same way. And I sat and I thought about it and I thought about it. And I'm like, how many times have I played Conan? I've played it maybe twice since I got it. And I did the all in on that one as well.
And that's it. Okay, so the Conan, it's not a bad game. It's just not a great game, if that makes sense, right? So it's like, I don't know. It's and I don't think I was just I don't know if I was just that big of a fan of the the mechanism of it, like the whole like the put the beads in the drop and like things like that.
Well, I've heard that they've refined it a little bit more and that it's a little bit better in the Batman system. Like they've learned from some of the issues with the Conan system and it's kind of improved. I don't know how much, if it would make that big a difference. If you really didn't like Conan, I don't know if this was going to change your mind, but I did hear that they refined it and made it more thematic for superheroes and got a little bit of the clunkiness of the system for Conan and made it better. But I guess what really pushed me over the top was just that it's exclusive. And if I change my mind or I'm a huge Batman fan and I would have just kicked myself if I didn't back it because I felt like I wouldn't get it to the table. And then the game comes out and everyone's saying how amazing it is. And I didn't have it. And that's what kind of pushed me over the edge. If it wasn't Kickstarter exclusive, I probably would have maybe gone in at the lower level or not got it at all and waited. But
it's like $320, right? For the whole damn thing.
Honestly, I don't even know why they have a $140 pledge. I don't know anyone that wouldn't go in for the all in, considering how much more you get for the price differential. I mean, to just get the base game and have nothing else for 140. But then when you look at all the additional content at the 320 level, I mean, it's like quadruple. So it's price per
it's only gaining, right? It's only with every stretch goal they meet, it's only getting more and more stuff.
Right. And some of the stuff is amazing. And the expansions that you get in the 320 pledge are so well worth it too. I mean, the 2-player expansion, so you can play it as a skirmish game, kind of like Imperial Assault. The Batmobile expansion, I mean, just for the model alone is well worth it. And then you've got Arkham Asylum and Wayne Manor. Now, who's not going to want to have those 2 sets? And if you piecemeal it, you end up spending almost as much as the all-in pledge, but the all-in pledge gives you everything plus the dice expansion, which is basically free, because if you add it all up, you're saving like $15 over buying all the add-ons individually. So it's basically gives you the extra dice pack for free. And the stretch goals are just going through the roof. I mean, it's already at like 2.8 million. So it's still got 20 something days left. So by the time this thing finishes, you're going to end up with like 500 miniatures for like $320. I mean, just the rate it's going, and they keep adding miniatures and miniatures and miniatures. You're going to be paying less than $1 a miniature by the time this thing is over with. I mean, it's crazy right now.
The weird thing about it is that, and I don't know for sure, who knows, but the weird thing for me is that, how do you think Monolith maybe is like even weirdly thinking, this should be making even more money than it is? I mean,
it's tough to say because it's a 31-day campaign. And the way normal normal Kickstarters trend is the first 48 hours equals the entirety of the campaign in the middle, and then the last 48 hours equals the first 48 hours. So they did $2.2 million in the first 48 hours. So that means they're probably going to be around $4 million at the end of the middle of the campaign and when they going into the last 48 hours, and then they're probably going to hit another $2 million in that last 48. So it's trending to be a $6 to $7 million campaign at where it's at now. I can't imagine that being considered a failure. I mean, maybe.
Well, not a failure, but I mean, I don't know.
You think they were expecting like to beat Kingdom Death?
Yeah,
do like 10 or 11 million.
Because Batman's such an iconic, huge.
Right, but the all-in pledge for this game is much less than Kingdom Death. So even if they get more backers, they're going to be less. Because wasn't Kingdom Death like $800 or $1,000 to get everything?
Yeah.
So there's no way they can eclipse that, because if you go all in this game, you're spending $320 and you're getting everything. Whereas Kingdom Death, $320 got you a third of the actual campaign. So it's going to be real hard for them to beat it, because they would have to exceed the number of backers by so many more than Kingdom Death, which is going to be tough to do because the average pledge price is probably much less, being that it's all in at 320. So I don't think they expected to beat Kingdom Death. I think they expected to be one of the top 10 or so Kickstarters, and I think they're going to get that. I mean, they go past 5 million, they're going to eclipse pretty much any campaign we've done. I mean, our biggest one was like 5.2. So I think they're going to eclipse anything we've done at CMON. And I mean, that only leaves like Kingdom Death and Exploding Kittens is like the two bigger ones, right? In the tabletop. I mean, nothing else has done more than 5 or 6 million except for those campaigns, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to be top probably 5. And I think at that point, that's very successful.
Well, I mean, and like I said, it's like, and Kickstarter is so weird, you know. It's just like you have Kickstarters that like, oh, we had a goal of 40,000, we got 120,000, then people say, oh, that, well, it's a failure. It's like, well, that's not a failure. You got, you know, that much, but you know, people have this weird like mentality of, oh, well, we should have made this, you know, or we should have got that.
It's there's so many factors that are involved when you're trying to judge the success of a campaign. I mean, first you have to look at your property itself and how well you presented it and how well your campaign is laid out and your price points and all that. But then there's the market. I mean, you know, did you come out at the same time as like 4 other big campaigns? Like just last month, like Kickstarter was flooded with a bunch of great campaigns. And even this month, you've got some really solid games out there that are doing really well while Batman is running. So, you know, I mean, there's a lot to do with what the market's set up at. You know, is it right before the holidays? Is it right before a major convention where a lot of the board game buyers are saving their money, like Gen Con? I mean, there's so many different factors that can really make or break a campaign. So, I mean, I guess it has a lot to do with timing. It has a lot to do with the quality of your campaign, and then having Batman as an IP doesn't hurt. But it could also hinder. I mean, there's some people that stay away from those mainstream IP games because generally those big IP games, unless they're like Fantasy Flight, aren't very good. When you look at IP games in general, you know, Star Wars has done pretty decent for FFG, but when you look at the mainstream stuff, like, you know, a lot of it's not that good. It's the stuff you see at Target and stuff that has like all the Marvel titles and whatnot. And you get a few good ones here and there, but you know, it's tough. It's a tough market with those big IPs because they have to be mass market in order to make money because they spend so much in licensing. So games tend not to really attract the hobby market as much. So it's a tough market to be in, but this one seems to be breaking that curve. So
are you like are you gonna go all in with Legion?
I sort of already have. I put a standing order at my friendly local game store to get 2 core boxes and 1 of everything. Now, I don't know if I'll continue that, but at least for the first wave, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to try it out. I mean, the videos, Watch It Play did a really nice series on army building and how to set up and all that, and I have a much better feel now as what the game's going to be like, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan. You know, Star Wars and superheroes are my 2 like most favorite things in the world. So I'm gonna attempt to go all in on it, but after the first couple waves, if the people in my area just aren't playing it or can't afford it or just isn't supported well, then that may be one I just ditch early. I really don't want to end up with like an entire Calyx shelf of Legion and never play it, which is kind of where I'm at with like Star Wars Armada. I've got all the Armada ships and everyone was excited about it. And then like after the first wave, when they started seeing how many waves were lined up to come out and how many ships it was going to cost, a lot of people bailed because of the price. And then there ended up only being 3 or 4 of us in the area that really have it. And it's kind of tough to only play with a couple people. So I'm a little worried about that with Legion. That's the only thing scaring me. But I mean, the miniatures look great. The rule system looks good. It's just more of, will my area, my small town here in Greenville, South Carolina, can we support enough players that I'll have enough people to play on a regular basis without, you know, having to play the same guy over and over again.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm always of the feeling like, well, one, man, I mean, I'm really into Warhammer now, and I really don't have time, you know, to bring in yet another, you know, battle system. It's just kind of like, you know, and I'm like, even though it looks neat, but my big thing is that, and this is dumb, but I mean, it's like, okay, so you maybe and I haven't researched it really all that much, so I could be wrong, but it's like, all right, so you have a Darth Vader figure, and then you have him, you know, and he costs, I don't know if they go by a point total or something like that or whatever.
Yeah, they have there's points involved, I believe.
Okay, so so Darth Vader gets killed, like if he has wounds and he dies. I mean, that's not Star Wars to me. It's just like I remember a long time ago, before there was like Star Wars Battlefront and stuff like that, there were, and this is like 15 years ago, but there were these like first person shooters that were Star Wars, and I forget what they were called. There were like some Jedi ones and some other ones.
Jedi Academy.
Well, it was Jedi Academy, but before that, it was like just like Rebel Trooper or something like that, or I don't know. But I mean, basically, you could set up a battle, and you could fight against your friends, or you could set up against AI and stuff like that. And I remember like certain battles, like if you started doing really well, like Darth Vader has joined the battle, and like you'd see like the computer AI of Darth Vader, running around slicing people up. And I remember like I was playing it once, and it was like this battle. It was like kind of on a bridge or something like that. And like when you shot at Darth Vader, he would just block it with his lightsaber. Like and basically, if he got close to you, he'd kill you. And that was just because you just weren't able to do anything. He was Darth Vader, right?
Right.
So, but I figured out that like you could knock him back with grenades. Like he was charging at you, and like you could throw a grenade at his feet, and it would blow up, and it would knock him back, and then that would allow you to get away. Well, I actually then purposely like set myself up so I was like at the edge of the bridge, and he was on the other bridge, and so I used the knockback to knock him off the bridge, because you could do that like the stormtroopers. And then it said like Lance Meister has just killed Darth Vader. I threw him off the bridge. I was like, cool. And then Darth Vader just immediately appeared in the battle again. Darth Vader has entered the battle, and he killed me. And I was just kind of like, all right, fair enough. But I was just like, but I also was like, I shouldn't be able to kill Darth Vader. I like I said, I mean, that's just, and I realize it's not iconic or whatever, but that stuff bothers me in those games.
Yeah, well, I guess it's hard that breaks immersion a little bit when you have random stormtrooper shooting down Luke Skywalker, or a rebel pilot guy, throwing a grenade and knocking Darth Vader off a bridge. But I mean, it's just really hard to make a game that's fun and balanced when you have characters that strong. You kind of have to bring them down to earth a little bit, even if it means kind of messing with canon on how they should or should not be able to be beaten. I run into that all the time because I play Star Wars Battlefront, and I've played all the X-Wing versus TIE Fighter games and all the Star Wars games. And, I mean, you have to be able to beat them, or else, what's the point? I mean, you're just you see Darth Vader and your whole team's just going to hand over their blasters and walk away. I mean, it's kind of one of the few things video games don't get right, but it has to be in order for balance and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I realize why, but that's why it just doesn't fit for me. That's why maybe I never really got into X-Wing, was because you just shot down the storm, like you just blew up the Millennium Falcon with.
Well, there is HTC Vive has a Darth Vader game where you play like Darth Vader through like his career through the Imperial Navy. It's a VR game coming out on the HTC Vive sometime later this year, and it's titled Darth Vader, and you basically start out as him right after he becomes Darth Vader all the way up to like A New Hope. It's supposed to be really cool. So if you end up getting into VR, that's one you'll definitely want to check out, because I think it'll be the powerful Vader that you're expecting to like feel like Darth Vader when you're playing this game. Being able to take out 20 guys in one time.
Yeah.
Cheech.
Cheech.
How's it going?
Just fine. So I saw Black Panther the other day.
Yes.
I finally went to go see that.
I loved it.
It was not a bad movie. However, I felt like it just like rushed to the end, right? Like I felt like the first okay, like, and I realized it was an origin story and like a background and a whole thing about the place and the time and the thing. Two things. It wasn't a bad movie at all, but two things. One, I never how like if you go and watch a Mission Impossible movie, you have to turn off your brain and believe it's possible that Tom Cruise is going to get killed or he's going to fail. Otherwise, there's no tension, right?
Right. Although
So
he never dies. He's
yeah,
always going to
yeah.
survive.
Yeah, he's always so I'm watching this and I mean spoilers. I'm watching and like and so he has oh no, there's no real big spoiler here. Like basically like it just he suffers the setback. I'll just put it that way.
Right, but Black Panther's not going to die in this movie, right?
Yeah, he suffers the setback and then they you're like, "Oh, what happened to him?" Well, he's not dead. You're just like
yeah.
And
it kind of kills it because that they're not. I mean, you're not going to kill off the main character in his very first full-length feature film, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So it's just like, and then you knew he was going to come back, and then you knew he was going to do the fight, and it was just kind of like, and then of course, and then the other thing that killed it for me was when they were like, they're sitting there and they're showing off the technology of Wakanda, and oh, why did we just have some needless exposition about how these trains work? Because it's probably going to be something we have to use later in the movie. Yeah, I mean, it's just like it was like, oh, I'm sure there's going to be something they're going to need to do.
I was still very pleased with the movie. I felt that they did the character justice, and I liked the fact that this one was more independent of the rest. Like there were references from stuff in other movies, but this one didn't tie along as closely as some of the other ones did, as far as the whole cinematic universe and where it's going, which was really cool for me. And I mean, I'm always going to have a really special memory of that movie because I saw it when I was at the New York Toy Fair in Times Square when with one of the actors from the movie sitting 2 seats down from me. So I mean, it was one of those things where I don't know if you saw the pictures I posted on Facebook, but
I did.
I played young T'Chaka was sitting right. Like his whole family was sitting right next to me, so I got to actually talk to him and meet him, and so I'm slightly skewed. Plus, is one of my favorite characters anyway, so I'm probably more of a homer on this one, but I really liked it. I mean, it's probably not my top 3, but it's easily in my top 5 of the Marvel movies, just for the circumstances around my first viewing of it. Yeah, and I'm going to go see it again this weekend with my wife because she hasn't seen it yet. So.
No, it was good, and it was just yeah. I mean, it was like, but I mean, there was just like I said, it was just like there was the obvious plot twist is obvious, it was just kind of like
this one didn't throw a whole lot of surprises at you like some of the other ones.
No, but I was glad they didn't ham fist in like an appearance by Captain America or anything like that. It was very much. Like, it was just like that. And,
this was about Wakanda and not about anything else going on. And that's what they focused on, which was great. And they, they had their little moments if you stayed for post-credit scenes and stuff, which I won't spoil anything, but there's some cool moments.
I had my kids with me and I saw the first one where they went to the UN. And then and they announced that they were going to. I'm guessing there was
people may not have seen it yet. It's still somewhat new, but yeah.
But I'm guessing was there a second one after?
Yes, there was, and that's the post scene that there's a cameo from someone that kind of ties things in, which I won't go any further because people haven't seen it yet. But
yeah,
you want to stay for the second one.
Well, yeah, because I couldn't. The kids had to use the bathroom. And
Yeah.
It'll be on YouTube or whatever later.
You can already YouTube it and just do post credit scenes Black Panther, and you'll see both of them. So.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
So no, and I mean, and like the big idea is that Wakanda has to be one of the places where one of the Infinity Stones is or whatever. It's like one of the big theories.
Or it'll be one of Thanos' biggest threats on Earth, and that's where he's gonna need to stop the Wakandans because their technology and their resources are probably a very crucial target to defeating this planet. So either way, it's gonna be crucial in Infinity Wars, which I'm sure is why they lined this movie up to fall where it did. I mean, because Infinity Wars is next, and there's nothing else in between now and it. So this is the last stepping stone you have going into Infinity Wars. So,
well, and then here's the big thing. It's like I was just thinking about this. So Infinity Wars, and it's got to be 2 movies, right?
Oh, yeah, I think they've already announced it's going to be 2 movies. There's going to be this one, and then there's going to be another one in 2020. Okay. I think is the next one.
So there's got to be 2, right?
With a few in between single movies that kind of tie in some loose things or something.
Well, no, the next movie is Wasp and Ant-Man.
Yeah, yellow Ant-Man and Yellow Jacket or whatever. Yeah,
in the Wasp. But anyway, regardless, so that's got to be the next one. But so they're gonna do that, and then you'd have to think that the Infinity Wars one. So they get to the second Infinity Wars, they get it done. Are they just gonna have to reboot? Because where do you go from the Infinity Wars? Like, how
I'm
do
not
you?
sure. I'm looking it up now because there is an actual page that shows like the next 2 years worth of movies.
I have a feeling they're probably just going to dip into the like the new Avengers, and the Avengers team we know is going to shift and change.
You know,
Yeah,
because that way you don't really have to reboot. You can keep all the mythos while still killing off actors or doing this or that.
Yeah, I mean it's probably going to be very similar to the real comics, where things kind of. Okay, here I think this one shows the timeline. Let me see if I can. That's not a very good one. Yeah, there is one here that talks about all the different movies that are coming up and the order they're coming in and all that.
well, it's not that big a deal. It's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know. I just don't. I just wonder where they'll go. Well, not that it matters, because I mean we're gonna have X number of movies coming up. I saw the extended Solo trailer.
I'm really worried about that movie.
Now I'm getting a little bit of. So they let him talk a little bit more in that new trailer, and it is a bit of a. I'll fully say it is a bit of a jarring. Like it does take you out of the movie a little bit. I mean, like because he isn't Harrison Ford, and there's no way you can be Harrison Ford, right? I mean, it's just so it's not that guy's fault by any means.
Yeah, I've got the timeline now actually. So it's Black Panther this year, Avengers: Infinity Wars, and then Ant-Man and Wasp, and then in 2019 is Captain Marvel, and then the Avengers: Infinity Wars Part 2, and then Inhumans. Those are the end of the Phase 3 movies. And then after that, they'll decide if they're going to go on to a Phase 4 or if that's going to be it. But that's the movies we have lined up for the rest of this year and next year. Is Black Panther?
I mean, that just doesn't seem like, I don't know. What do I know?
Ant-Man and Wasp and Captain Marvel are the only other individual movies before the second Avengers Infinity Wars movie, and then it ends with Inhumans, which I don't know if it's going to be tied into the Inhumans from the Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., all that stuff going on, or if it's going to be its own thing. Because there was an Inhumans TV series that was on for a very small time, a small run, but it got canceled, so I don't know if that affects this timeline or not.
Well, I always liked the Inhumans when they were on like the comics. I always I just loved the idea. The idea of them was cool. I love Black Bolt. I mean, the fact that like your main hero, your character can't talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I Black Bolt was yeah. I mean, are you familiar, Forrest, with the Inhumans?
I am not.
Like basically, like think of like basic, mutant power, people with mutant powers that live on the moon that nobody knows exist or whatever. But their leader, Black Bolt, even a whisper from him is enough to like level mountains. Like he's that powerful. So
if he screamed, he could like rip the earth in half.
Yeah. So he just never he can't talk. So it's just yeah, it's yeah, and like it was so weird. The level of different powers they had were so weird. Like, okay, and then like his wife, the queen or whatever, was Medusa, who just had hair that she could that she.
And she's somewhat strong. Like she's got super strength and speed. But it's nothing like it's not. It's a very weird combination of. And
then there was the weird dog Lockjaw that could teleport.
Teleports. Yep.
Like basically this giant bulldog that has like a horseshoe on his head, and he could teleport like anywhere.
With anyone that touches him.
Karnak, the martial artist, who like if he studied anything for like even more than a few seconds, he could find the single point where he could strike his hand and he could level a building. Like,
yeah, some kind of like bullet time thing too, where he can like slow down time and see what's going to happen in the next few seconds, and then react to it and change time type thing too.
I'm trying to remember the other Inhumans now.
There's the guy with the horse hoofs, the centaur guy.
Got the centaur guy.
I forget what his name is, but
and wasn't there a guy that like he could change people's emotions? Or am I thinking wrong? I mean, I'm not thinking
so many of them. I only know them from the show. I didn't really read the comics.
Yeah, no. See, now I'm gonna have to look them up. Just because, because I like the Inhuman comic book was something I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the known Inhumans. Yes, a list of Inhumans. Here we go. Black Bolt or Blackagar Boltagon was his real name. Medusa, Crystal. That's right. The ex-wife of Quicksilver. And she could manipulate all four of the different earth, air, fire, and water. She had power of that. Gorgon was the person that had the legs, and then Karnak, Triton, basically the fish guy, and then the evil Maximus. He was the one that always tried to defeat him, but they would never. It was one of those things they always did where it was like, oh, it's Maximus. Once again, he's trying to overthrow Blackagar Boltagon, but we won't ever kill him or imprison him. We'll just banish him, and then he'll just come back and try to kill us all off again. But that's fine. Yeah. And then Luna Maximoff, daughter of Quicksilver and Crystal, born human but later mutated by the Tarragon Crystal by her father. Yes, and because they got exposed to the Terrigen mists. Remember that the weird mists that were on the moon.
Mm-hmm. Terrigen crystals have been all over Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. over the last couple of seasons. That's their big thing now, is trying to figure out the Terrigen crystal stuff. And
that was another movie, another show I never got into. Like everybody was like, "Oh, you gotta watch this," and I was just like trying to watch it, and I was like, I don't know, I couldn't get into it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, it's not for everyone. Like, I've liked some seasons, and some seasons have been less than lackluster, and it's been one of these on and off shows for me. Me and my wife watch it, and I guess I watched it a lot because of her, because I just liked watching shows that interested me that she actually liked as well. And it's not always easy these days because she likes a lot of reality TV, and I really don't anymore. But so we watched a lot of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And the last season has been. We haven't watched this last season. We missed a few episodes, so we decided to just wait till it's over and watch it all in one shot. But I have not been a fan of this last season. The few episodes we have seen have been kind of weak. So it kind of comes and goes for me.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know. I haven't even asked, but does anybody have any grievances they want to air? I can't even. I mean, I really don't have any. I've just been too tired and too busy to have grievances.
Nah, not really. I mean, I'm going to Gamma next week, and another trip after I've been sick from New York Toy Fair. I've been fighting off a cold and flu, and I'm just finally getting over my sick, and I'm getting ready to go on another trip. So I'm still a little tired and beat up. I would have liked to have been another week buffer in between shows, but other than that, I can't really complain.
What about you, Cheech?
Nope. Crappy parents, same old, same old.
Crappy parents, same old, same old? What does that mean? Oh, like school.
Yeah, parents that don't discipline their kids. The regular.
I will say this. I was like, when I was at Black Panther. And and my kids act up every once in a while, but for the most part, they're pretty good. And or at the very least, if they start acting up, if I say, hey, you two need to settle down, they'll okay, and they'll keep it in check, right? Because I usually try to say something along the lines of, look, just in an hour you'll be home and you can tear around and do whatever you want, but for right now, just for the love of God, just sit down, just and. You try to reason. I've always, whenever I try, there was a quote on The Simpsons, and I've always loved it when Homer jumped the Springfield Gorge, but when he tells when Bart wants to try to do it himself or whatever, and he said, Bart, I've tried everything. I've tried it's like I've tried punishing you. I've tried grounding you. No, I forget what it was. He was like, I've tried grounding you. I've tried punish you, and it's like and God help me, I even tried reasoning with you. Nothing seems to work, so I'm gonna have to jump the gorge myself. But you'll be killed. Don't you think I know that? It's the only way I can teach you this is dangerous. But no. So yeah, and but man, I was just sitting there, and there. First of all, it's like it's 7:00 movie on a Tuesday night, and they didn't have school today, because it was it's parent teacher conferences week, and there was there was more than a few families in there, and I mean I'm just watching these kids literally run up and down at the bottom of the movie, and they're touching the screen.
Oh, geez.
And I was just like, get your goddamn kids. Just like,
welcome to my job every day, Lance.
I was just going to say Forrest is probably the expert on this situation. I've got 2 kids, and my kids would never do anything like that, or else we'd be leaving the theater, so... There's parents that literally, I'll tell them all about their day and how shitty their kid was today, and they'll be like, "Oh, what are you gonna do?" It's like, "Well, you're the fucking parent." Jesus.
I remember, and I mean, admittedly, you can't do this, but a buddy of mine lived in the Minneapolis St. Paul area for a few years, and like he was working, and his wife was working, and he had to have his one or a couple of his kids that weren't in school go to this daycare, and he said it was one of the few daycares in town that had it was run by a guy, and he had all of these like projects he had the kids do. It was like they didn't stay inside, they got outside, and he had them do all these like special things, and they built things, and it was just like the guy had a waiting list like a mile long, but they got in, and they were just super pleased to have him in there and have his kids in there. And one day he showed up, and the guy is, and literally there's a mom, and she's bawling and talking to this guy, and the guy is just stern faced. He's like, "I'm sorry. It's just there's it's she's like, I mean, please, just and she's just like, this just isn't fair." And he's like, it's how it's going to work, and he was just being just stone faced. It's like, it's like, I don't want to do it, but this is how it's going to happen, and so then she left, and so then, he asked him what happened, and the guy said that they were all outside doing something, and this one kid was sitting there, and everybody was doing their projects or whatever. This one kid was at a sandbox, and he was digging in the sandbox, and he was pouring the sand outside the sandbox. And so the guy walked up to this, and the kid's 4 or 5, whatever, and walked up to him, and he said, "Okay, I'm going to call a kid David just because I just need a name. David, you have to stop doing that. Now is not the time for sandbox time. Now we're doing this other thing." And David said, "Oh, I don't want to do that. I want to do this." And he's like, "Well, I understand that, but this isn't the time for sandbox time. Plus, you're not respecting the sandbox because you're pouring it out. You need to come with the rest of the group." And he said, the kid turned and looked at him, and he said, "I don't want to do that. And if you make me do that, I'm going to tell my mom that you hit me." And so he said, "Okay," and he got up and he walked over. And they did everything else. And when the parents came to pick up the kid, he said, "David's not welcome back ever again," and told them exactly what happened. And he's just like, "I'm not going to deal with that. I'm not going to deal with a kid that could turn around and tell." And then all of a sudden now I'm being investigated, and I'm like, I got to have all this stuff going on. And I was just kind of like, yeah, I get that. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, just that would be horrible.
It's a slippery slope, man. I've had a sexual charge filed against me by a 3-year-old girl, and that completely changed everything about how I worked. It's no more hugs, no more this, no more that. It's this one little girl ruined everything for it's just, she said I touched her bottom. I was like, no, I didn't do that. And now no kids ever get hugs. So for the last 4 years, at my work, I've given 3 hugs, and those were all to kids that were like graduating, that were like 12 years old, that I've been with for 5, 6, 7 years. It's a scary world, man, especially if you're a dude working with kids, because all it takes is just one, and you're done. I mean, your career's done, and you could be looking at potential prison time or something like that over nothing.
Yeah, and you understand. I mean, it's there to protect the children, but yeah, it's like, ugh, bad stuff. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, other than being really, really busy and wanting to get more sleep and not getting sleep,
hear that?
oh yeah, I mean, it's just I've always got something going on,
Actually, I do have a grievance.
Oh, okay. Ooh.
I got a rule book grievance, and actually, I'm gonna start adding a new feature to my videos. I'm going to keep track of how many times we have to go back to the rule booklet after rules explanations. And I'm going to call it clicks. I'm going to say, just keep track of how many times we had to go back to the rule booklets on our first gameplay. And I think that'll be something interesting. And that was brought on tonight, actually, by The Arrival. The Martin Wallace game.
Oh, that is not a good rule book.
That rule booklet, and it's reprinted too.
Yeah, I know. I don't remember that original. I mean, that was a game called because The Arrival is based on an old Martin Wallace game that was called,
started with an M, I think. I was looking at it.
Yeah, it was like it was set in the time of Arthur, and it was dang it. I want to be able to think of it, but I can't. But then they called it The Arrival, and then they redid it again, and I'm like, and I don't Mordred. There you go. Thank you, Mordred. And so, and it was just like, how did they screw up the? Oh yeah, no, I agree. Bad.
So yeah, I'm going to start keeping track of that now. How many times I have to go back to a rule book and mention reviews? I think that's really useful.
I'm so sick of like when you're gonna get ready to play, like you go over to somebody's house and you're gonna get ready to like play a game or whatever, and the first hour and a half is one person with the rule book. They kept their nose stuck in the rule book while the rest of people are like,
and that's kind of a catch-22, right? Because you want to play a game and you want at least one person to know the game, but nobody ever wants to be that guy that has to spend 4 hours watching videos and reading the rule book in order to teach the game. So a lot of times you go in and we're just like, well, I'll learn it together, and you suffer together. And that's a drag. So it's like, if you're lucky, if you have that one guy who loves to like read the rules and know everything about the game, and if you don't have that guy in your group, then everyone just has to suffer through it. I used to be that guy, but now I read so many rule books that I just don't want to be that guy anymore.
Yeah, I do that at work. I do dry rule book reads where I'll just read it, so I have at least a concept of what the game is before we go bring it to the table. I read the rule booklet twice over the last week, and it still took us an hour and 15 minutes to get the game going. It was
I hate that, and it's just like, and it could be the greatest game ever, but if it's 2 hours and you haven't got it rolling, what sucks is like a game like Eldritch Horror, where if I haven't even though I've played that probably 10, 12 times, I go so long in between sessions, and the setup time takes so long, really depending also on which expansions you add in and stuff like that. That game drives me crazy, because I know once I get the engine running and the game's going, I'm gonna have a lot of fun playing it. But it's like getting to that point is just like you're just grinding gears. I
have that same problem with Twilight Imperium 4. I got it for Christmas, and a group of my friends get together every month to play it. So we played it in January, we played it in February, and then we do it one. It's actually not bad.
I'm so jealous.
We've gotten the game time down to around 5 hours, which is great for a 5-player game. It's about an hour a player. But the first hour of each game, because we only play it once every 3 to 4 weeks, is trying to remember all the little rules. So the
Yeah.
first few turns are always very sloppy for most of us. There's one guy that's played it a little bit more than us that seems to always get an early lead, but the rest of us all catch on and remember, oh yeah, we can do this, or oh yeah, this is how we should do this. And by like the second or third turn, everyone's on an even playing field. But because I only play it like every 3 or 4 weeks, and you go so long periods in between without playing it, it's tough the first couple turns.
So here's the weird thing. So like I always talk to people about like they talk to me about you know, like the different like how like you see people like talk on social media and on Twitter and all this stuff, and they talk about all these games they play, and oh, I got this game set up on this table, and I played that game the other night, and I did this, that, and the other thing. And it just seems like they play a ton of games. Now I play a ton of games too, but you know, it's my job. So I'm always wondering, how does people when it isn't their job?
I don't. I used to play a ton of games, but when you work in board games and then you have a part-time job designing board games, the last thing you want to do with your few hours a day of free time is play more board games. So I've noticed that in the last 6 months, I have been spending a lot more time on my Xbox and my computer and on like my Oculus Rift than I am playing board games. And I still get together a couple times a month and spend a day playing board games. But where I used to play board games 2-3 nights a week and go up to the game store and play every Monday night, every Wednesday night, I don't do that anymore. Now it's like I need my break from board gaming or else it'll just drive me mad. So I'm board gaming now more on a every 2 to 3 week basis than I am on a weekly basis anymore. But the people that don't work in the industry, they get it. They want it every chance they can get. And it's different when you spend 8 hours a day working with board games and then another 3 or 4 hours a night working on board games. It's a much different. We have a much different perspective than the average consumer.
Yeah, I mean, for me, yeah, that's the thing that it always just drives me crazy.
It sucks the fun out of it, basically. Working in the board game industry sucks the fun out of the board game industry. Since I've been in the industry now, must be going on my 5th year now. I still love it. I still have a passion for it, but that feeling you get when game day comes around isn't the same as it was 4 years ago. Not even close.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I will never. I have to. I have to like, you know, when I have grouchy days of work, I have to tell myself, you know, like, how about how great I have it, you know, obviously. So I have to remind myself that sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's a bad problem to have, right? I mean, you know, like someone in the chat said, we turned our fun into work. And a lot of people would love to have the problem we have where you're just working in board games all day long. And you know, it's not as glamorous. Let me tell everyone out there
it's such a grind. It really is. Oh, yeah. What if we change the die cut on those to this, and we change that? Okay, get another quote from the manufacturer. Okay, is there some way that we can somehow, with the weight allowance, can we add, like, you know, these 3 cubes to each, you know, and you're just like, oh, and you know, it's just, that stuff is just a grind.
And working in the sales side of board gaming company is even worse because I'm dealing with Excel and spreadsheets and sales softwares and angry customers who are, you know, wanting answers. Where's this? When am I going to get this? It's a different atmosphere, and it's not woe is us. I mean, we're very fortunate to be able to be in an industry that we love working, but it's a lot harder than most people think. When you're looking on the outside, looking in, thinking, oh, I want to work for a board game company. How fun would that be? It is like any other job you'll ever have. Just the subject matter happens to be something that's a lot cooler than, say, you know, oil changes
but let's be fair, it's still fun. It's still better than when I worked at the frickin' financial service that I worked at.
It's better than UPS, which is where I worked at before I worked here.
Yeah, it just drives me crazy. I mean, it's not even, you know, I don't know. I will never say I'm burnt out, but man, I am just like, you know, sometimes I feel like I've been punching walls for a while, you know, and it's just like, you just kind of.
That's why you need the release, which is why I told you, like, I've gotten into the video gaming in my spare time now, and it's kind of taken a little bit of that extra weight off my shoulders of being in board games 24/7. Finding some other hobbies to do. It's reading. I've been doing more reading. Anything I can to kind of detox. Even if it's just a couple hours here and there to kind of get my mind off of cardboard. It helps.
Yeah.
I think too much of anything is a bad thing, even if it's something you love. And I've done this in the opposite direction where, I was, when I worked at UPS and I'd come home from a long day's work and I just would want nothing to do but sit in front of my computer for 6 hours a day playing EverQuest or something. I mean, you can get too much of a good thing and eventually you'll just get sick of it. And, now I try to balance better and try not to try to spend more time doing a variety of things so I don't get burnt out of any one thing.
Especially if you're playing EverQuest. Yeesh.
Oh God, I used to play all the time, like all weekend, every night. I was addicted.
I watched the EverQuest zombies at the when I would go like play first person shooters at the computer labs at the college. I mean, I would see the EverQuest zombies.
Oh yeah,
it
was a job. I played EverQuest 40 hours a week and worked 50 hours a week. So,
I mean, what are you doing? I'm sitting here. What are you waiting for? I'm waiting for a special spawn.
To pop, yep. 3 hours I'll sit here waiting for this monster to pop. And if someone comes in and hits it while I'm not paying attention, I'll swear and curse and then sit there for 3 more hours waiting for it to pop again.
And then like the weird eye creature popped or whatever, and then he ran over and he hit it and then he killed it, and then he's like, oh, and it's like, what? Well, the thing that I wanted didn't drop. Oh, how often does it drop? Like 1 out of every 100 times you kill it. And how often does it pop?
Every time. It's
once. It'll pop once every hour, maybe, depending upon just like. Yep. Oh my Lord, are you kidding me?
And I played them all, man. I mean, I played EverQuest, Asheron's Call, Dark Age of Camelot, City of Heroes. I was an MMO junkie back in my.
I played Dark Age of Camelot just because I really enjoyed the PvP in that.
I did too. I loved it. I played Albion. I loved that game.
So did I. I played a scout.
I had an infiltrator and I had a paladin. I had 2 classes I played. I played both of them all the way to max level, fully geared out. I loved that game.
See,
one of my favorites.
I would get to like level 19 and do the battlegrounds until I got bored, and I go to level 29 and I do the battlegrounds until I get bored. But I love that the scout, the bowman that could go stealth.
Yep.
Yeah. And you could do the overdraw. So like I just sneak around and look for people mages that were sitting down. Yep. So I'd get an automatic critical hit and I could one-shot them.
Yeah, I love that game. My infiltrator, I used to love sneaking into castles and keeps during a keep raid and being able to sneak in and just assassinate all the guys standing behind the walls. It was awesome. Yeah, and my paladin was amazing. He was a shield spec pally, and I could solo just about any mob in PvE. So he'd be my main PvE guy, and then I'd switch to my infiltrator for whenever I went out into the frontiers. It was a great game. That was one of my favorite games. That and City of Heroes were probably my 2 favorite MMOs of all of them. I played those the most. I played those till the day they closed the servers on both of those games.
Yeah, I mean, Dark Age was a good game. Horrible graphics.
Yeah, well, that game's, what, 20 years old now? 15 years old? I mean, that came out a long time ago.
But even then, it was still pretty horrible graphics.
Yeah,
It wasn't matched up. But the world of the MMO is over. I mean, really. I mean, Warcraft is around, but I mean, people just don't play MMOs anymore. People are too busy playing their shit on their phones.
Well, that's the problem. They're too much of a time sink now. I think that there's too much out there that anyone wants to be locked down into any one thing. Whereas back then there were less options, so there was, it was easier to get sucked into a World of Warcraft or an EverQuest because there was maybe 3 or 4 really good MMOs, and now there's hundreds of them. So the player bases are split up, and you got the consoles really kicking it into gear. You got new VR stuff coming out. It's hard to just dedicate to one game anymore because there's games just like board games. There's 30 new games coming out every week. So, it's too hard to keep up. I think the days of those type of games being long-term things are over.
Hey, I got a little buddy here. What's up? What's up, bud?
What do you play on Xbox, Pete?
Right now I'm playing Kingdom Come, Monster Hunter World. I've got Star Wars Battlefront, Forza Motorsports, South Park, Fractured Butthole, and Rock Band. Those are the games I have currently. I've traded in everything else.
Not much of a first-person shooter fan?
I am, but I mean, I play Battlefront a little bit, but I'm not I don't have the twitch reflexes to really be good at first person shooters. I've got Call of Duty World War II, but it's on my PC because I have a little bit better hand-eye coordination with the mouse and keyboard than I do with the controller. But now, I mean, back in the day, I could play Halo with the best of them, and I could play, Gears of War and all those other games. But nowadays, these kids just kick the crap out of me, so I don't really play much first-person shooters anymore. I play it if it's got a good story, like a good single-player campaign. I'll play that. If I've got a good team of friends that can kind of balance it out some. But nah, man, I when I go into these games solo, I just get eaten alive. Like I like play PUBG. I play a lot of PUBG on the Xbox too. That's a little bit more tactical than it is Twitch Reflex. So
we should exchange gamer tags. Yeah, I play PUBG and Overwatch. Good deal.
Yeah, I've got Overwatch on my PC too, but again, I'm not that great at it. So I used to play with a bunch of people. There was a bunch of industry people that played it when it first came out, but I slowly faded away and stopped playing it as much. So they all out-leveled me by a ton, so I don't really hop on it anymore. But yeah, I will. I'll shoot you my gamer tag. And I enjoy the games on the Xbox. I play a lot of them, but the first person shooters I tend to stay away from. Like PUBG is a little bit different. That's one that I've enjoyed, but I'm looking forward to like Sea of Thieves, which is coming out in March. That one looks really fun.
Yeah, I'm stoked for that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm excited to play that with my son too, and just have him watch that because he loves watching me play, but I think it'll definitely be more his style.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun game. I played the beta for Sea of Thieves, and it was a lot of fun. Being able to, it reminded me of that Sid Meier's Pirates game from back in the day, where you go around collecting treasure and fighting off pirates. It was just it hit all those buttons, and even though you kind of have to have some reflexes, it's still more tactical as far as lining up your shots or the ship to ship shots and the sword fighting. It's more of a button mash, so you don't have to necessarily have a ton of skill. You just have to time everything right. So that game's more my speed. So I enjoyed my time in the beta. I'm looking forward to the release. But I'll probably I'll get Red Dead Redemption 2. That game will be awesome because it has a great story and it'll have a cool multiplayer. That game looks like it's going to be really good. And then I also have a Switch with pretty much all the games on the Switch. Me and my daughter plays Switch a lot. She loves a lot of the games on there. So I've got a bunch of those games too. But I primarily play on Xbox and PC.
Yeah, I'm thinking of getting my son a Switch for Christmas this year.
How old is your son?
He'll be 6 in January, so he's 5 right now.
My daughter just turned 7. She loves it. Like, we play Mario Kart. She plays even Tetris, Puyo Puyo Tetris. There's a bunch of games on the Switch that are great for that age range that are, Mario Odyssey, 1, 2, 3 Switch, even though they're kind of, not real fun for adults, but my daughter loves most of those games. So the Switch has got a really good library for that age range. So my daughter enjoys it. We probably play like 2 or 3 times a week, and she loves it. I'm going to let her play for like an hour at a time. I'm trying not to get her too hooked on the video games. She's still kind of young, but we play probably a good 3 or 4 hours a week together. And then she plays a lot of games on my computer with me too. She really likes the Oculus Rift and the VR stuff. So we'll play some games on there, some educational games and some cooking games and stuff she really likes on that. So that's a good age range to get them introduced, as long as you don't let them get too crazy and spend their entire afternoon playing every day.
Yep. I mean, that's really what a lot of those kids in my class have the issues with. Like, as soon as they get home, it's immediately they're in front of the TV or in front of their tablet for 6 hours.
Yeah.
Until they go to bed.
MGK 2020, you can get Sea of Thieves for free if you have Microsoft's Game Pass. Microsoft's Game Pass is $10 a month, and it gives you access to like 200 games from Xbox 360, and then Xbox One titles. And Sea of Thieves right on launch day will be part of that Xbox Game Pass. So if you want to try it out for like 10 or 20 bucks, you can sign up for like a couple months and play Sea of Thieves, the full version of the game, and you don't have to actually buy the game. It's part of the Game Pass. Yes, it's amazing. Xbox Game Pass is a great deal. I'm actually considering getting it just for Sea of Thieves, but then to be able to download any of those 200 games that they have available on there for free at any time I want, it's a pretty good deal. And they say that they stay on there for quite a while. Like, these games don't rotate off very often, that the original lineup is going to be like that for months and months and months. So you'll get lots of time on it. Yeah, that's I got 2 years free to that with my Dorito binging. Oh, geez. That was part of the Xbox One X's. Oh, nice. I wish I'd, yeah, God, I would have done the Dorito thing just for Game Pass if I'd known that. I wasn't going to go crazy enough to try to get an Xbox One, but if I could have gotten a couple years of Xbox Game Pass for those Dorito things, I would have done that for sure. Yeah, and the Game Pass looks like a pretty solid deal. $9.99 a month, and you get 200 games, and there's some pretty good titles on there too. Like there's brand new titles. They've got like 6 titles lined up for 2018 that are going to be direct to Game Pass. So like $60 titles. So just playing a couple of those will be well worth it. Yeah, I'm excited. Sea of Thieves looks good. I'm looking forward to Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm looking forward to those 2 titles pretty much. And then there's a bunch of VR titles coming out, like I talked about earlier. The Marvel Unlimited is coming out. That's going to be pretty awesome. And the new Darth Vader game is going to be pretty awesome. So some good video games coming out this year. It'll be a nice break from the cardboard jungle.
You download any demos for the Oculus?
Yeah, I get a bunch of stuff. My my Oculus I probably got about 20 demos downloaded, free demos, and then I bought about probably another 25, 30 games for it. They're cheap. Like the VR games and the Steam games are all like 10, 12, 15 bucks a piece. So, I pretty much buy like a 1 game a week. Or get a free demo and try stuff out. There's some really cool stuff on that. I've been enjoying it. They tabletop simulators on VR on Oculus Rift. So if I wanted to get in and play board games on my Rift in 3D VR, I could do that. But I don't have a ton of friends on the Oculus that have the tabletop simulator, or I probably already would have bought it. But
my best gaming experience ever, just period across the board, was VR. Oculus Rift was The Legend of Zelda, the original Legend of Zelda on VR is incredible.
Oh wow, is that Nintendo virtual Nintendo thing they've got? I think I heard about that. That there's a app that lets you play Nintendo games in like a virtual reality setting. It like converts them to 3D.
I've never done anything aside from just the
Zelda
one.
Apparently you can play Mario and you can play Mike Tyson's Punch Out and all that stuff. Yeah, it's apparently an app you buy. It's like a $10 app, and it basically you can take emulators, ROMs that you can download online for free, and put them in this app, and it'll basically render the 8-bit games into like a 3D virtual. So you'll see them with definition and depth, and you can look around and see like 360 view of where you are in the game. I haven't done it yet, but I'm gonna definitely get it. I'm a huge old school gamer, so anything that's 18 or 8-bit or 16-bit games, I got a soft spot for that stuff. I grew up as a kid playing those games, so that's all.
I go to this place, this convention called the Midwest Gaming Classic in Wisconsin every year, and it's all about retro stuff and Oculus Rift and arcade games.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I wish I was closer to where I am. I would totally be on that.
No, but the Zelda one, the crazy thing about it is it turns into like a survival horror game. The thing you don't realize is all those monsters are the same size you are.
Yeah.
And it's still like there's this giant monsters, and your sword is like the size of this pen, and you're just like dink, dink, dink.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff. Like I've really enjoyed the VR stuff. Probably one of the coolest games I've played is called Sariento, and you're this female ninja flying around in like 2040, jumping around these buildings, like taking out these assassins and stuff. And the amount of realism, like you're jumping off a side of a building. And there's been times I've actually had to like remind myself that this is a game because it looks so real. Same with like Super Hot. The Super Hot doesn't look real, but Super Hot basically is like you're playing Matrix the game. Like you move,
yeah.
You move, and while you're moving, the rest of the world moves. But if you freeze, everything pauses. So like when they start shooting you, you can just stand still and you can see the bullets and then slowly move out of the way, and you can like time them, and it's a really cool, like it basically puts you in scenarios. Like it'll set you up a scenario where you're like in an airport and there's 3 guys trying to come and shoot you, and you take them down. And once you've taken them down, then you go to the next scenario. It's a little bit harder, and they give you like props like cups and dishes and stuff, and you can disarm the guy and take his gun and then shoot the guys. It's harder to explain, but if you ever get a chance to play Super Hot, it is one of the best gaming experiences you'll ever have. Like it makes you feel like Neo from the Matrix. It's really awesome. There's a lot of good games like that. Like there's a bunch of new games coming out this year and next year that are going to really push limits. Like Fallout just came out for VR, Fallout 4. You can play all of Fallout 4 in VR, and that game looks amazing. new Marvel game, the new Star Wars. The Star Wars has got a whole lineup of games. Disney's got a whole lineup of VR games coming out. So it's my daughter's super excited. So yeah, there's gonna be a lot of cool stuff. I think VR is really gonna push the envelope for gaming in the next 4 or 5 years. It's gonna become the new hotness if it isn't already.
Yeah, I really wish Xbox would have embraced that.
They're behind this curve. I feel like this year they're going to announce something because PSVR, they can't allow them to have another full year of market share in VR. So I feel like they're going to either team up with HTC or they're going to team up with Oculus and come out with an Xbox VR, or maybe even like one of these new Windows mixed reality sets will be workable on the Xbox, like the Samsung or whatever. They got to do something because they're good. They can't keep PSVR is going to dominate the market if they let them go any longer unopposed. So,
yeah, I feel like just one AAA game could swing it to either company.
Oh, sure. It's still new. PSVR is still only like a year old, so there's still time to jump in. And there's some cool games on the PSVR. I don't have one, but my son's got a PlayStation. I may get him the PSVR for his birthday, just so I can play it. But there's some cool games coming out. They've got some really cool. They got like a cool Star Wars one where you're basically flying an X-Wing in VR, which is really neat. And they got a cool Batman game where you're like doing doing these detective investigations as Batman and trying to solve these puzzles and stuff. Kind of reminds me of Arkham, the Batman Arkham Origins games, except in VR. I've got one of those on my Rift, and it's pretty cool too. So, yeah, the graphics have definitely ramped up now. I'm actually, before you got on, I was talking to Lance about I'm actually looking at getting a new computer to be able to maximize my Oculus Rift setup because my current computer is like 5-6 years old, so it's kind of at the end of its life cycle. So the next computer I build is going to be built around VR ready, so that I can really push the Oculus and whatever the next gen VR sets are going to be. So yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot. It's been a very nice escape for me from board gaming. Although I have been really enjoying board gaming lately. Like I've taken a long enough break now that I'm playing Charterstone, I'm playing Twilight Imperium 4. I'm really enjoying those. I played Dinosaur Island, really had a lot of fun with that. So I've been playing some games over the last month or so, but it's been slowly getting back into the swing of things again as we're rolling into con season.
Yeah, it was pretty. I like Dinosaur Island a good deal. I liked it a lot more than I was expecting to. I got to try that last week.
Yeah, it surprised me. Like I didn't back the Kickstarter. A friend of mine brought his copy over and we sat down and played it. And even though it's kind of a very Euro-y game, it really felt like I was building Jurassic Park. By the end of the game, I was like, wow. The very next day, I went to my local game store and bought the last copy they had. It sucks I missed the Kickstarter, but they said that sometime in March they were going to be doing some either an expansion or something where I may be able to get in and get some of the exclusives I missed from the original campaign. But yeah, there's something's going on. They said something about like March 12th or 13th they were going to be announcing a new Kickstarter for Dinosaur Island, and I don't know if it's an expansion or sequel or maybe a reprint where you can get all the extras or something. But they said to keep an eye on Kickstarter in March for it. So I'm looking forward to that.
It was one of the very few games where I played the short game, and I was like, man, I wish we kind of would have played the medium or long.
Yeah, we played the medium, and I even with that, I felt like I would have been fine playing the long game after. It was so much fun. Really working on their dinosaur park engine was really cool, and the way the mechanic works with the people coming in and starting at the gate, and then you fill up all your rides and stuff. It just the whole game just works, and it's great design. I appreciate really thoughtful design mechanics in a game that not only are thematic but make the game really just work. And this one hits all the buttons. I didn't have any complaints at all, I don't think, about the game, other than I missed the Kickstarter and didn't get some of the upgraded like dinosaur meeples and stuff. But the game was just really solid, really good game. That's one I'm definitely regret missing. I had actually backed it and canceled my pledge because I had so many other games. I'm like, this one I can let go, and I'm wishing I'd canceled one of my other ones because this one was really good. Yeah.
Actually, oddly enough, those upgraded components were the only complaints I think I had about the game were the dinosaurs.
Oh yeah,
the dinosaurs all pretty much look the same. That was the only complaint about the game.
Yep. If you get the upgraded ones, they have a much different feel and look. Yeah.
I'll have to ridicule my friend who got that.
Yep. Yep, that's why I want to get them. Either that, or I'll just get my own upgraded. You can go find little toy dinosaurs to probably replace them and stuff. So I may do that. If I can't get the Kickstarter ones, I'll make my own because there's plenty of toy dinosaur options that I can find where I can get them in mass, where I can get enough for the game. So I'll come up with my own dinosaur meeples if I have to. But Charterstone also, I've been really, really happy with Charterstone. We just finished the first 4 campaign games. We play once a month and we double up. So this is the second month. We just played in February and did campaign 3 and 4. And then in March, we're going to get together after Gamma and do campaigns 4 and 5. But I've been really enjoying Charterstone. It's been probably my best legacy experience so far.
Yeah, I really like it a lot. Me and my wife played it 2 players, and we're gonna wrap up a 6-player game next week. We got our final game. We're playing at a bar, which will be cool.
Oh, nice.
I liked it a lot.
Does playing it multiple times ruin the experience because you kind of know what's coming, or does it play different enough each time that it's not so bad? Like playing it with the 2 players and going through the whole thing and then starting a 6-player game. I mean, do you feel like you have an advantage? Because I'm still very early in my game, so I haven't really played through a lot of it yet.
I definitely could have had an advantage, but I told myself I was going to play completely different from how I played my other game and stuck to it. And like, I knew certain things were coming up, and I just didn't capitalize on them because I thought that'd be crappy.
Well, that probably ruined your experience too. I mean, if you're running away with every game because you know what to expect, it kind of I can see how that could ruin the experience more than it would make it better.
But I will say I actually had the opposite issue, where me and my wife finished that, and I played so opposite to how I played before that I actually have lost all 11 games.
Oh my god!
Which, I mean, it's a 6-player game, so it can happen, but it hasn't even been close in a lot of those games. And I don't know. It's hard to play it again with 5 people who have never played it.
Right. I actually did good. The first 2 games I really didn't play well at all. I finished like second to last and third. But in the last 2 games, games 3 and 4, I won both those games. I was very shocked. I found a nice little combo, and I don't want to say a whole lot because I don't remember how much of it is hidden information or stuff, but found a nice little card combo with one of the buildings I built and a couple cards that I have saved that really seems to work. It generates a lot of points and gives me some resources that are really valuable in the game. So it worked out real nice, and it built me a nice lead in both games. And in the 4th game, I was close. Like, they started catching on to my little combo, and then they started, doing things to slow me down, and I ended up only winning by like 2 or 3 points. But in game 3, I had it running, and I won by like 10 points. It was a lot of fun, though. I really like the little things that change each game, and I'm looking forward to see what goes on in game 5, because I think I don't want to say much because I don't know how many people have played it, but seems like there's some big changes coming up in the next game or 2. From what we seem to have unlocked in game 4, seems like it's going to have a pretty significant change on games moving forward. So
yeah, that period.
You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it seems like a pretty interesting thing.
I will say, though, I mean, I've played 23 games now of it. I'm down. I mean, I'm down. I'd do it again. So, I enjoy it a lot.
And no, Lord Javi, I have not talked about Xenocide yet. That was a pretty new reveal. I don't have a ton of information other than what's already been shared, so I really don't have a ton to add to it yet. They kind of kept this one because I don't work in the office. I work from home in Greenville. I don't get to see a lot of the advanced stuff that the people in the office see, so I don't know all the extra cool stuff about Xenocide yet, other than what's been announced. I'm sure at Gamma next week I'll get a ton of information, and I'll be able to come on the week after and share some stuff with you guys. But right now, what's been posted is pretty much all I know. But then I don't know if you know about Xenocide yet. They announced the next zombie side game. It's Xenocide, which is a sci-fi zombie game where you're zombies in space. So it's going to be on Kickstarter in April. So they've got stuff up on our website and Facebook page showing some new character descriptions, talking about some of the game mechanics, showing off some models and stuff. But they haven't really unveiled a ton of information yet. So that'll all be coming in the next few weeks.
Nice. So what are you guys expecting to have at Gen Con and Origins? I know obviously it's all hinging on shipping, but is Rising Sun going to be the big one you're focusing on?
Rising Sun's going to be out at the end of this month. So yeah, well, I mean, it'll still be our big title this year, but Song of Ice and Fire should be out by then. We're expecting it to be out in Q3, so we're hoping, as long as everything goes well, that we'll have it'll be available in by Gen Con timeframe. So that'll be our big Gen Con release. As long as, knock on wood, as long as we don't have any shipping issues. But Rising Sun will be well out. Same with Green Horde. Green Horde is going to be out in April. Rising Sun's out at the end of this month. Rise of Moloch also is out in April, and then the big release at the end of Gen Con will be Song of Ice and Fire.
That's the miniatures game, right?
Yeah, that's 2-player tactical miniatures game. Yeah, so that's going to be the big deal there, as long as we don't have any delays or anything. So,
Seth doesn't have Mike either.
No. It's just you and me. We're holding the fort down until Lance gets back and Seth goes up, and I'm going to bed soon. So if they don't get back soon, it's going to be a really slow show for you.
Hey, guys.
Talk about robots for an hour.
Hey, can you? I don't know if you can hear me. Is my mic okay?
Yes.
Yeah, now we can. You were muted before.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I did that because I'm like in the car and stuff, and I'm just kind of listening to you guys. But
yeah,
Lance, how's everybody going?
Oh, good. Lance's son came by and took him away for a little bit. He's been gone for about 10 minutes now. Me and Forrest are just trying to hold down the fort until he gets back. I'm leaving in a little bit. But
you guys figured you got a chance to get your word in edgewise, so you're taking it?
Yeah, we might as well. Yeah, you know what happens when Lance gets back. So no, everything's good. We've already done grievances, but if you've got one, feel free to share.
Well, I guess I could. I've got a. I posted some stuff. I had a big discussion on Facebook and Twitter, last night and today, going on, because here's the thing. I posted a sort of hyperbolic assertion, we'll say, to kind of make a point, but it generated a bunch of discussion, and I know Lance participated in that discussion. He made a post in the discussion as well. But here's the thing. People complain about something called the alpha player problem. I'm sure you're all familiar with this.
Oh yeah, yep.
I saw those posts.
Dynamic and stuff. You saw those. So all I really want to say about that is,
the alpha player problem exists.
Many times when I hear people complain about an alpha player problem, what I think they're really complaining about is a different problem altogether. And what I don't like about it is what they're doing is, so the problem, in case anyone doesn't know, is when you're playing certain types of cooperative games, and I think it's only a certain subset of cooperative games, which I can explain in a minute, they can be dominated by a domineering or loud or experienced player, and other players feel like they should defer to the experienced player because they know what they're talking about, and it ends up being the case that one person plays and everyone else watches, and then that's no fun. So here's where the problem comes in. They refer to that as an alpha player problem, and they demonize the player for playing that way. Now, there's kind of two parts about the player playing that way. They might be just being a jerk and breaking social etiquette and whatever, and that's one thing. People can do that in any game. But here's where I have the problem. There's a certain subset of cooperative games. I refer to them as solitaire by committee, and here's what a solitaire by committee game is. These are games where you could play by yourself, like Pandemic, for example, is a perfect example of a solitaire by committee game. One person could play that by themselves successfully. But the whole point of the game, and in fact the whole point of the genre, is that you're not supposed to play it by yourself. You're supposed to have a little committee meeting with your friends and decide on the best course of action together.
Can I stop you just for a second? Let me stop you just for a second.
Sure.
I would be the only type of co-op game that isn't the case is where each player has some sort of secret knowledge. That's the only type of co-op game.
I could get into this more, but I think there's actually more than one way to sort of take a game away from that dynamic and towards more of a everyone's got more of their own agency and yet you're cooperating, as opposed to these games which are, I think, specifically intended to have decisions made by committee.
By agency.
But anyway.
Wait a minute, but I want to know what you mean by agency. Do you mean like their motive, or what do you mean by agency?
Like, basically, I mean, a lot of people play these games and they expect, and this is kind of a failing of if there's a failing of the game, it's communicating this to the players. They sit down expecting to make decisions for themselves rather than by committee. And so if a game's whole point is to make decisions by committee, that's a mismatch of expectation, and people will, this leads to this problem. Whereas in a game where you have to make decisions yourself, because got information, or because the game is person to parse it all themselves, or because you've got extreme time pressure and there's not one player to play everyone's moves, or because you're not allowed to. There are lots of ways to kind of reduce that committee meeting and remove that committee meeting. Those games are by definition not this subset that I'm talking about, Pandemic and Ghost Stories, where one person could live and play all the moves without any other help. These are the kinds of games that I believe are best played literally by committee, where it's not one person. People who are like, oh, you've played more than me, so we'll just do what you say. Then the point of the so like talk about it and have a discussion. And as evidence, I present play Pandemic or whatever with more than one quote alpha player, and you'll see that it's not just listen to one person. The whole two heads is better than one thing. So this is a whole like
I have a question.
Genre of games. Yeah.
So what is the actual statement, like boiled down to a sentence that you're trying to make here? Just out of curiosity.
Basically, it's like if you're playing a game where the whole point is to make decisions by committee and somebody is making suggestions about what you should do on your turn, then I don't think it's right to demonize that player because they're playing the game. Instead, and now the big failing, people say, oh, it's an alpha player problem because that person's barking orders or quarterbacking or playing wrong. In my opinion, that's kind of the point of the game. The problem isn't that they're telling you what to do. The problem is that you didn't realize this was a committee-style game. And you were surprised by that, perhaps, and didn't want that. So if there's a failing in these games, it's not that someone can quarterback. That's the whole point of the game. The failing is that the game doesn't do a good enough job communicating to the players, hey, you're supposed to have a committee meeting. You should participate in the committee meeting and not just let somebody else play for you.
So don't hate the players.
So that's, I think, where the problem is.
Yeah, don't hate the players, hate the game.
Well, and I wouldn't even say hate the game. If I were to play chess and then complain that the other guy was better than me and beat me every time, is there a strategery problem in chess? Is there a strategic player problem? No.
Strategery. I like it.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my beef. My beef is most of the time that I hear people complain about the alpha player problem, quote unquote, what they're really saying is, I'm not playing the kind of type of game I thought I was playing, and I don't like it. Which is fine. People don't have to like it. And like I said, I think if there's a failing, the failing is that the mismatch of expectations. They sat down thinking they were going to make their own decisions, and they ended up in a committee meeting where people were telling them information. It's also, maybe it's a little bit fragile in that there's the opportunity for somebody who's overbearing or not very socially etiquette friendly in their suggestions to kind of make you feel like you're being talked down to or forced into certain things, or that there's that your opinion doesn't matter. That kind of crosses the line into somebody's just not being a good person. And these games, maybe they kind of leave the door open for that. In which case, if you've got a friend who's going to make the suggestions and maybe they don't sound so polite, or maybe they're very demanding, or maybe they're like, you should do that or you're an idiot, then maybe you shouldn't play the games like this with that player, or shouldn't. It could be the case that nobody does that and everyone kind of plays their own turns and doesn't have input, but that's super inefficient and not the best way to play. It could be the case that everyone does that, and I think that's the best way to play those games. I think that's the intent, is that everyone contributes and then you pick the best course of action. Or you could play it where one person's contributing and another person's not, and the person that's not probably doesn't have fun. So
I really want to disagree with
anything,
you, but at the same time, I'm like taking this analogy and applying it to movies or books or something, and I really can't disagree. It's like if you wanted to read a book about kids going to school and having adventures, and you read Harry Potter and you're pissed off because there's magic. It's like, well, it's kind of the point there. So yeah,
exactly. Now, if Harry Potter did nothing to tell you that there was magic involved, then you could say, well, I expected this to be about kids at school, and I didn't know there was going to be magic, and I'm upset about that. And to the extent you'd be correct, I think, would be like the book didn't do a good job of letting you know what it was about. But I don't think you should say people shouldn't write books about kids doing magic because nobody likes them or whatever. Because obviously some people do like them, right? Like, that's a bad analogy. That's a labored and bad analogy. But my point is, like, there's people tend to, in my opinion, they tend to lump cooperative games together when there are different types. And in this particular case, I think there's a fundamental difference between making your own decisions versus making decisions by committee. And I think that's a big distinction that you can make between these different kinds. And there are other kinds too. There's hidden trader games. There are, like Battlestar Galactica or Shadows of Camelot, which are significantly different than Hanabi, which is limited communication, right?
Well,
so there are different kinds of games.
But allow me to say this. This is. I mean, and I get what you're going with, but I mean, but your definition of there not being an alpha player problem, in my opinion, there's two exceptions. One, the first thing is that this has to be a game that you could play solo by yourself regardless, because of the fact, like, and it's like a game of Pandemic, like a game of Arkham Horror, like a game of just basically any game that everybody knows what everybody can do, everybody knows what everybody has. There's no secret knowledge, there's no hidden agenda, there's no secret traitor, there's nothing like that. So you could play the game by yourself, and even though like the interaction with the people is probably what you're looking for, for the game, the actual game itself wouldn't change at all.
Not like just a winner where everyone's got their own agenda.
That is basically what I said the definition of what I call solitaire by committee is.
Okay.
Now, Andy dinged me today by saying that I didn't define that well enough. So if I were just saying solitaire by committee without saying this is specifically a term I'm using to mean this exact thing, then people might say, oh, anything can be solitaire by committee. So it's hard because I want to preface by saying these are the games I'm talking about. They're basically games that you like you just said. Go ahead.
Okay, but there are games of that genre where like player roles will place them into positions of power over other players. Like they will dictate certain things. And I'm trying to think
like the dispatcher in Pandemic?
Yeah, like that. That's a good one. Stuff like that where it's just like,
like I could say, I'm the dispatcher, you're going to move to Timbuktu or whatever, whether you want to or not.
Yeah, I mean, that allow you to, like, that basically puts them into a general role. And by not general, I mean like the army, like officer general definition is what I'm going for. And that can put people into that, like, I don't know, that position, and that will, and the alpha player problem will arise from that.
Well, here's I understand what you're saying, Lance, but here's my whatever rebuttal or my answer to that is that's looking at it from a point of view that you're making your own decisions for your own player, where in my opinion, these games are intended or best played by committee. So if I'm the dispatcher and I'm saying, I'm going to move you to Cairo, even though you don't want to, it's not that I'm moving you to Cairo and you don't want to. It's that we've, as a committee, decided that this is the course of action. The dispatcher moves the medic to Cairo, and then you do. It's
but that isn't a committee.
I'm just going to do this whether you like it or not.
But that isn't a committee decision. If you're like, I'm moving you here whether you want to or not, that's not a committee decision. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Is like if you're saying I'm moving here whether you want to or not, you're not really doing a very good job with your committee meeting. You're
but
either
the
you're
problem
being a jerk
is
or you're
that
not trying hard.
The problem is that game itself is setting it setting it up to have the propensity of that happening. Whereas if
only if people are playing by committee.
Whereas if I am playing a game like Arkham Horror, where everybody just kind of wanders the board and does their own thing, and like all of you are trying to like collect clues and defeat the monsters and doing the best job you possibly can do. There's no player in Arkham Horror that can.
Did I break out? You broke one of.
You're fine. There's no player character role that I remember anyway in Arkham Horror where I'm going to make you go and do this and that's my power. I can do that. So I mean, there are games out there that give other players power over other characters.
So that's a really interesting, Lance. That's a very interesting point, and it didn't come up in the discussion online today. However, I do think
I actually made that point when I made my comment in Facebook.
Is that what you were talking about?
Oh, that's one of the things I talked about.
Maybe I didn't quite parse that part of your comment. But here's the thing. That's only true. Again, that's only true if you're not playing by committee. If you're playing by committee, which I assert that these games are intended to be played by, then it doesn't matter that I can move your character because we're a team.
But
And if we're playing as a team, it doesn't matter.
I think you're skating right past my point. My point is that if you have a game where a person's power can make another player do something that they don't want to, that's not by committee at that point. That's
no. If they do it, if they do something someone else doesn't want to do, just like unilaterally, then they're failing at the committee part.
Well, okay,
but that they can do it doesn't.
Fine. But then the game shouldn't set it up so you can do that. Is my point.
I'm pretty sure.
But if the game
I just want to pause right here. I'm pretty sure in Pandemic you do have to have the approval of the person you're moving. Like 99.9% sure.
Well, I don't know.
That may be true.
So long. But anyway.
That may be true in Pandemic, but it doesn't. My point is that it doesn't matter. If you're playing the game by committee, then there won't be a unilateral. I'm moving here because even if you don't want to, because you've decided as a team that's the play. And if you play that way, and if everyone has their input, then that's how the games work. That's how Ghost Stories works. That's how Pandemic works. That might be how Arkham Horror works. I don't really played Arkham Horror, but basically any cooperative game where one person could play the whole thing, in my opinion, they're best played by committee. Not like you could play Pandemic and you could just not talk. You could just, without input from anyone else, do your 4 actions and do it and whatever. And whenever it's your turn, say, "Oh, what's the word say? I'll do my 4 actions." I think you'd lose more often than not because it would be very difficult. And I don't think that's the best way to play. I don't think it's the most fun way to play, and I don't think it's the intended way to play. I can't guarantee the last one because I haven't talked to Matt Leacock about this. But these are kinds of games that are about playing by committee. And if you don't play by committee, you might have a bad time. So, in my opinion, that's why I say, and I said it in kind of a hyperbolic way to kind of get a point across, to kind of bring attention to it.
Oh no, not you!
In those games, yeah, in those games, there's not an alpha play. That dynamic isn't an alpha player problem. The player making suggestions to you on your turn isn't doing it wrong. So calling it a alpha player problem, a problem with that player, is kind of insulting and rude. And I don't, it's kind of demonizes a player for playing the way the game works. When really, most of the time I hear that, what they're really saying is either I don't like this kind of game that you're supposed to play by committee, or I don't understand that we're supposed to play this game by committee. I thought we were all going to make our own decisions, which I can't really blame people for thinking that. Most games are like that, and it actually wasn't obvious to me at first either. But when I figured it out, I'm like, oh, that's how these games work. That's better. It probably should be stated explicitly on the box. I think that would probably help a lot of players either have the right expectation going into it, or avoid the game if they don't want that to be, if they're not interested in that. And especially with Pandemic being such a good and easy game to learn and whatever, people teaching it, if they're not going to make it clear that it's supposed to be a decision, committee meeting, I could see it turning a new player off, especially if they have an expectation. It's an alpha player problem. It's really a problem of communication or mismatch of expectations.
Okay.
You cut out there, buddy.
Yeah.
We'll come back.
He's gone.
He's around. Mm-hmm. I admire Seth's conviction.
And
just there's nothing wrong with that genre. A lot of people like it.
Oh, there it is. You cut out there for like a good 45 seconds, buddy.
Oh shit! What was the last thing I said?
No, it's all good. That's all right.
Whatever you were saying, I'm sure it was brilliant and well thought out.
Yeah, and I agree in principle with what you have to say. I think there are probably exceptions to every rule, and some things work better that way, and some things don't. But in general, I think I agree with a lot of what you're saying.
Well, a lot of the pushback I was getting online today boiled down to a couple of things. One was lumping that style of game, and I'm only talking about a specific subset of cooperative games, not all cooperative games. And they were saying they were lumping that together with other types of games, you could just play like Space Alert, and there's not enough time to quarterback. And I'm like, yeah, that's a different kind of game, not a committee style game. Another pushback that I got was that one person in particular was very adamant that if another player had more experience, they felt like they should just defer to the more experienced player, which again, opposite of the point of the game. And if that's how they view those games, then maybe that's not the kind of game for them. Now it's hard to know that going in, I guess. But yeah. So I don't know. I got a lot of pushback, but I feel like the pushback was either not understanding my point or not understanding the difference between the types of games, or I don't know what. But
or maybe they were more
and it
right
probably
than you.
was. It also could have been the case that I was a little, like I said, hyperbolic, and perhaps my assertion was a bit, I don't know, aggressive, I guess.
It was to use nowadays terminology. Your statement was very clickbait. Let's put it that way.
That was kind of the point, because I wanted to kind of make a point, but it's also kind of aggressive, and it made anyone who complains about that dynamic or feels like that dynamic exists.
You know what it sounds like?
Kind of makes them prickle and get on the defensive. So.
It sounds like you were alpha gaming the discussion.
Ooh.
Think about that
one. I mean, I was actually accused of that. I was actually accused of that in the threads. So whatever. And it was also pointed out that if I were playing a cooperative game, I'd probably be referred to as the alpha player. So
the answer is Seth actually said, "Whatever, I'm sending you to Cairo."
All right, gentlemen. Well, it is almost 12:40, so I must bow out.
I gotta get my kids to bed anyway, and it's been a really, really long day. The massive culling happened today. I think I got about 800 games out and into. I had a friend come over. Jesus. And we got about 800 games out and into my garage, and we used some plywood and some sawhorses, and we made some shelves. And it's been a while since I've allowed people to actually see over there. You might have remembered the giant mess, but we'll just kind of go over there. You'll notice that yes, there's still a lot, but there's like you can actually see the room now.
I wish you were closer. I'd love to go through those games, see if there's any gems that I would like, but you're far away.
Yeah. I actually have I actually have somebody that's just giving me a healthy chunk of cash just to take them all off my hands. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Do you have Pillars of the Earth in there?
I do have, with expansion.
Is that in the coal pile?
No, that's like one of my favorite total chill games, because it's I know the rules backwards and forwards, and it's just like, and it's such a ridiculously normal, I guess is a great way to put it, like a worker placement game where it's just like collect this resource, turn it into that, turn it into points.
Any Clan War stuff by chance?
Clan Wars?
Yeah, AEG Clan Wars.
Oh no.
Okay.
No. You had blank?
Yeah, blank. What are we playing? Password
game.
What was Password? It was like what was it? And I do remember the what was that on Family Guy or whatever? And he said Tommy was so forgetful when people asked him what he had for lunch, his mind drew a blank.
I like the Family Guy where he's on Wheel of Fortune, and the word spells out to it looks like a bad word, but it was actually not a bad word, and he said the wrong word.
He's like,
everyone hated him.
Yeah, he goes, I was pretty sure the last one was My Hairy Aunt, and then and then there was the other one that when Quahog, when the nuclear war happened, and they run into the insane guys and tell us what you'd like. Tell us something you bring on a picnic. Potato salad. Show me potato salad.
And then they take off in the car because everyone's staring into
the guy just points off into
the. As stupid as Family Guy can be, it's still, to this day, I still can't. If it's on TV, I watch it. I watch it. I'm going to go to bed and probably watch Family Guy for like a half hour before I fall asleep. But the show just makes me laugh. I don't know why. It just does.
Yeah, I mean it's incredibly.
It is pretty funny.
Eclectic and random, but it is
yep,
it's well done. But anyway, I appreciate all the boomers that hung out with us tonight. I didn't we started up late, but that was just like I've been up since early this morning, and one of the worst things was that we had a treadmill down here, and that those things aren't light. So we actually, because like my room where I normally do my videos is now it's slowly becoming my wife's office, and
did you have to move the treadmill, Lance?
Yeah. So the treadmill.
Did you feel like you were working and just not making any progress?
Nice. So no, we got the treadmill into what will soon be my wife's office. There's still about 200 games on shelves in there that I got to get out. But the big thing now is come early April is when my board game table shows up. So then I'm going to actually kind of almost have a pretty decent place in here where I'm going to be able to do videos. Like I've got my setup and everything ready to go. And
10 years in, about goddamn time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I might actually
up to the 20th century.
Are you thinking about getting a Nicolas Cage movie poster in the background?
Yep. That's
complete with a giant rip in it.
Final piece right there.
No, seriously though, Lance. More seriously, you should talk to Daniel about getting a big what do you call it? Neoprene mat with a TMG logo on it.
Oh no, I've proposed that. I mentioned it to him a few times when we were like talking at like Gen Con and stuff, and like I said, like that would be good instead of having like the classic backdrop of just like games behind me. Just putting a big Dargon over my shoulder or something.
Hey, Forrest, if you buy him a Nicolas Cage poster, I'll sign it. We get all the boomers to sign it. That would be awesome.
I'd put a National Treasure poster behind me or whatever. And
we got to do that. We got a Gen Con this year when we're all together. We all have to get a poster and all autograph it so they can be proudly displayed on Lance's wall.
Yeah, just have it in the background. But I wouldn't want to
do would have been to should have not told Lance this and did it for his birthday or something.
Oh, if it could be that horrible Ghost Rider movie.
The first one wasn't
this
bad.
will be a discussion we'll have. We'll pick something really cool that fits Lance, and we'll get everyone to sign it.
Was Nicolas Cage in the Ghost Rider sequel too?
Yeah. Oh my God, how great would Nicolas Cage be if he just showed up in Age of Ultron? That'd be the best.
In what?
Age of Ultron. If he just came right up in his motorcycle.
Oh.
You realize Age of Ultron came out like 2 years ago, right?
Or the
Infinity Wars is what he's talking about.
Oh.
Yeah. Nicolas Cage reprises his role as Ghost Rider in Infinity Wars, and Marvel explodes.
I thought they should have got him for that TV show, and the Ghost Rider was on that TV show.
Oh, for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I'm sure
Wesley Snipes
that was hilarious.
Can we get him? Can we get Blade in there too?
Well,
yeah, Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes is still in pretty good shape.
Wasn't he in prison?
He got out already.
I don't know about that.
He got out last year.
Holy shit! Why was Wesley Snipes in prison?
Tax evasion. Whatever. He got like 10 years for like not paying taxes for he owed millions of dollars.
He wasn't very good at tax evasion, apparently.
Nope, he was not. He was much better at evading blades than he was at evading.
I remember there was a thing where like he was on. They had some like martial arts like show or whatever, and then Wesley Snipes was hosting it, and then while he was there, like he had just earned his like 5th or 6th degree black belt in whatever martial arts that he knew, and you can probably find the clip online, but like they're coming out to present him with his belt, with the extra stripe on it and everything like that. And so then he just does this. He's so excited. He gets up and he does some weird spinning kick, that's just amazing, like offhand, like wearing street clothes. But his freaking phone falls out of his back pocket and hits the ground and just shatters. It's just like, he's like, "Wah! Oh, damn it, my phone!" But not, he had money back then, before the
slightly,
the tax man,
before the tax evasion.
Yeah, when he wasn't paying his taxes, he had plenty of money.
I feel like he should probably still have plenty of money, but whatever.
Oh, I'm sure he's not, he's not panhandling.
No. I'm sure all that money he didn't pay in taxes is sitting in an account waiting for him when he got out of prison. So.
In some Grand Cayman Island or something, right?
Yep.
Hey, Seth, are you going to Origins?
I don't know. I hope so. Actually, probably not, because I'll have like a 2-week-old kid. So probably not.
Well, Origins or Gen Con are you going to go to then?
I'm not entirely sure I'll go to either. Origins is like right after my kid's born, so I probably won't go to Origins.
All right.
I mean, if I can,
No,
go to
you
Gen
stay
Con,
home and be a
but I don't know
dad.
if I'll be able to.
You be a dad,
I'm
man.
not sure. I'm not sure how it works. You know, how long does it take before you're able to like,
Dude,
you know, do things?
well, I mean, if you want to go physiological, your brain will start pumping out chemicals that'll make you be all like, "I'm gonna kill anybody who comes close to my baby." So just be ready for that.
You're not gonna sleep for a good couple months after the baby's
Oh
born. Until
no!
the baby's sleeping for
Oh
the night, so.
no! You won't sleep at all.
You may not go to another convention this year once that baby's born because you won't sleep probably more than 2 hours.
That's my expectation because my expectation is I won't be able to go to any conventions this year.
Oh, but seriously, between now and whenever,
and
get
that
as
way,
much sleep as you can.
Yes.
Sleep all the time right now.
Front load your sleep. You're going to need it. Now, we got lucky. My daughter, after about 6 weeks, was sleeping through the night, but that's very rare. Most of the time, you're looking at months before they're sleeping through the night. So,
my daughter had colic for like the first it was like uncontrollable crying. That's the worst. When she came home from the NICU, and it was because who knows, but they theorized it was because she was so used to all the noises and the lights and everything, and that's what she slept during. So then we brought her home, and there was no noise and no lights, so it was just like, I worked TV. Well, I worked the late shift, and I come home, and the only thing that would keep her from crying was carrying her, and so I remember just walking back and forth in her bedroom as she's like sleeping on my shoulder, and then like every 20 minutes, like thinking, okay, maybe I can lay. Yeah, okay, you're still crying. Okay, we're gonna walk back and forth for another. I remember I would just count my steps. That was the only thing I could do. Just counting my steps as I walked back and forth. And but no, dude, you are on the cusp of the greatest adventure of your life. So
people keep saying it. It's like, the phrase, I think he does protest too much or something. That's you and Daniel especially are always like, oh yeah, it's gonna be great. You're gonna it's the best thing ever. It's the best thing ever. And I'm like, they're saying it so much. Am I gonna have to convince myself, or what's going on?
No. I mean, the thing is that it's I don't know. It's tough to explain. It's like
all of the downsides of having a baby make it worthwhile. Like that's what you appreciate the most, like the sleepless nights and the changing diapers and the soothing them when they're crying. The things that you will hate in the first few months, 6 months after, will be the things that you'll remember and the things you'll miss. So it's a love-hate thing.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
once the personality starts to develop, that's the most amazing thing in the world too.
Yep.
When you start seeing an actual personality on this little thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they don't really have any personality, but like the first time, like your kid will put together like 2 or 3 words to tell you something, just anything, where it's like, I'm thirsty. You're like, what? Like, it's a communication.
The first word shocks you, and the first sentence blows your mind.
Yeah, and it's just like,
cool.
My son is 6 years old, so I'm seeing that I'm talking to him, and he's at Taekwondo, and he's practicing because he's going to test on Tuesday for his green belt, and so they had him practicing his kicks, and they had him practicing his pattern, and I was just recording him doing his pattern, and he saw me, and he looked over, and then he ran over to me, and he said, "Are you putting that on Facebook?" My 6-year-old son, he just runs over. Are you posting that? I was like, no, I'm making this video for myself. So when I'm peeing my own pants when I'm 80, I can look at it and I can go, oh, there's my boy practicing his green belt pattern. So I mean,
forms.
Forms.
Yeah.
Patterns.
So I had a thing today when I was leaving my house. My neighbors were out, and this kid. I'm not sure how old he is. He's young.
Actually, before you get started, I do have to go. It's almost 1 a.m. So good night, guys.
We'll see you all in 2 weeks. Story, though. You don't like Seth.
Good
night. Good night, guys.
All right, see ya. So my neighbor's got 3 kids. One's a brand new kid. And the middle one, who's, I'm not sure, young, I don't know, was just starting to first time try to learn how to ride a bike. Like a little tiny bike with little tiny training wheels. Yeah. And so I started pulling out of my driveway, and they're in the street, and he was kind of freaking out a little bit, and then he started freaking out, and I stopped in my driveway, they were like in the cul-de-sac or whatever, and I'm like, oh, there's people there. So I stopped and everything, and I got out of my car to actually throw something in the trash can, and I heard my neighbor saying, oh yes, that's not going to hit you with the car or whatever. And then, but the kid was like starting to freak out. He's like, I can't do it. And he was like not having a good time. I think he fell over, right about then and whatever. And he's like, and he started crying and stuff. And I was like, got out, and I was like, I tried to encourage, and I was like, hey, you learn how to ride a bike, and whatever. I was trying to be all encouraging and helpful, and I was like, hey, show me what you can do. And he was trying it, and he was having trouble, and because he kept like pushing backwards instead of forwards or whatever, and his bike wouldn't go, and he's like, I can't do it. And it was interesting. I was like, oh, it's there's a time not too long from now where I might be doing this with my own son. Just hey,
Yes.
this is how I'm gonna teach you how to ride a bike, and
Yeah.
it was cool. So
Yeah,
I was,
no,
I was trying to be helpful.
You'll
see. We'll see if.
Go ahead.
We'll see how this kid does, and we'll see how I do as a teacher when it comes to be my turn. I've been told I'm a good teacher, so we'll see if it holds up.
You're a very patient person, and that strength will convey itself very well towards fatherhood. And you also are I don't know. It's like, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's like you're kind of a big kid anyway, so I mean it's just like, so I mean it's just you'll be able to kind of go back. And how is your wife doing? I mean, the pregnancy's going well, I'm assuming, but I mean
the pregnancy's going all right. She's about done. She'd be happy for it to be over. She's been hurting lately with her back, especially her back, but like I don't know, various things have been hurting, and she's had trouble sleeping, partly because of the hurting, or partly because the baby keeps kicking her and stuff, which is a bummer. And so she'd be happy if it was over, I think. But other than that, everything's been going all right. Nothing bad has happened.
I mean that's
out of the
great,
ordinary.
man.
Everything seems to be fine. So
that's pretty normal. Ready for it to be over, that kind of thing. So
yeah. So, and we just went this weekend. Actually, part of the reason I didn't go to SaltCon with the TMG guys, which I really would have liked to have done.
Yeah, I want to go to that one time.
Was that we had this? Yeah, it's fun and it's nice. It's like a laid back thing, and I get to visit Mike and Daniel and Andy, play a little few games and whatever. But like this time we didn't go. We had this class, this like I don't know, parenting class or whatever, or like birthing class, I guess it's called. And it was like 4 hours a day, Saturday and Sunday, and it was super informative. I mean, I've never been through this before, right? So I don't really know what to expect. I'm kind of going in blind, except for what you see in the media or on TV or in movies, which is very not the way it's done. At least not anymore. Like the whole like position you see people give birth in movies and whatever. That's like a way to go, but it's often not even recommended or whatever. It's like bad. And there's a whole lot. Apparently, like everything's different. As it was, one of the people in the class had a kid like 14 years ago, and this is their second kid. And everything the lady said, everything the teacher lady said, this lady was like, "Whoa, that wasn't the case 14 years ago." Like everything is different, so different. And we saw some videos of people giving birth in different ways and whatever. And I was like, "Whoa, super informative." And I'm glad I saw them because now I have a much better idea of kind of what to expect out of the whole thing, of labor, birth, everything. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know if you
toured the facility as well.
I don't know if you're a big book reader or anything like that, but there's a book that's been around for quite a while, and it's just called The Expectant Father, and you can get it off of Amazon for $10 Prime, and it's written very straightforward, very honest from a guy, and they've revised it. I mean, like so the book I read when my daughter was born is probably nothing. They keep revising it as time goes on, but it's a good book, and it goes through everything, and it goes through everything that you should be expecting and everything like that, and then there's even a sequel to it where it's like The New Father, which it talks about. And it isn't just like normal stuff like what you should expect. It's like the changes that you'll see in your wife, as well, and just like the things that you should expect, and they're not super long books. They're not like super scientific books or anything like that.
Right.
They're good things. They're decent books.
Maybe I'll check those out. We're reading What to Expect When You're Expecting. A little behind or whatever.
But see, the cool thing about this is it's directed towards the dad. It's for you.
Yeah.
The
other one's kind of for moms.
Yeah, and so this one is like distinctly for you, and what it talks about just like and like it just says, there's like, how do you change a diaper? What do you do? It just like, and it talks about it, and it's like, will your kid pee on you while you're changing? Yes, most likely. Don't worry about it. Just it's urine's a sterile liquid. It's not going to hurt you. It's like, so it's stuff like that. So it's well worth the, like, I think you can probably pick up both books for around like $18 in Prime, and you'll read them in a day. You will read them both in a day. They're really quick. So
I might look into that. Yeah, thanks. So it's called the Expectant Father and
The Expectant Father and the New Father. I think you can go on Amazon. I'm sure they're on there.
Sure. Maybe I'll look it up. Yeah, thanks. I'm not too worried about it. I'm sure it'll be fine.
No, I'm sure you'll do great, man. You'll be a great dad. That's the whole thing, man. It's just like it's your life will completely change. I mean, but that goes with it goes without saying. But I mean, yeah, it is. But it is. I've said, anybody who will listen, the greatest, coolest job I've ever done in my life is being a dad. And you do it for life, so you don't ever retire from it. You don't ever retire from it, and so
cool.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, I guess we should go to bed.
Yeah, get some sleep, because you're not gonna be able to get some anytime soon. Give my best to your lovely wife. Tell her thank you once again for taking care of my friend. Because I appreciate that she appreciates you, I guess is the way I put it. So, but hopefully, man, I'll see you sometime this year. I'm kind of sad that.
Yeah, I'd like to. There's a bunch of stuff that I like to do that I'm just not gonna be able to do, I'm sure. But
yeah, well, and the completely,
before the baby comes.
It's kind of neat. It's like so you're like you're more present now in Slack and stuff, and like talking to people and everything like that, because we're not gonna like see you for like this year.
Yeah, kind of. I miss you guys. I miss the two of you guys. I haven't seen them. I missed SaltCon. I'm gonna miss Origin. So I want to. I don't know. I don't want to like fade away. I want to be part of the action, right? So
that sucks, because you're my buddy at Origins. Like we've roomed like the last 2 Origins. Like now I won't see you, but that's fine. You'll be a dad.
You'll have to have a roommate. You'll have to have a roommate that's actually there.
Yeah, that's true. Best roommate ever.
All right.
I'll talk to you later, brother.
All right, man. Goodbye.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Good night, already.